we are all, or many of us are very familiar now with one of the key missions of the Trinity Strategic Plan. And that is that at a very high level, we want to deliver to society graduates who will use their skills and talents to fearlessly engage with actions that advance the cause of a pluralistic, just, and sustainable society. A very noble ambition. But to achieve this, Trinity must ensure that and support students in developing, on the one hand, a very deep knowledge and competencies in their chosen discipline, as well as a broader knowledge derived from the Trinity electives and options, open options that the senior lecturer just spoke about. But they must also develop a broader set of attributes through the co-curricular experience that engender a greater awareness of the community and the world around them, but also a confidence in action, a confidence to engage and act. The Trinity student experience encompasses all of the activities that students undertake while here at Trinity. Some are linked directly to their academic program, but many others are associated with their co-curricular activities. Sports clubs, societies, students' unions, volunteering, activism, internships. And so we use the term co-curricular very deliberately rather than extracurricular, because the overarching curriculum of Trinity is the development of the graduate attributes, regardless of whatever program the student embarks on. But what is apparent when we look at the graduate attributes, and in particular the underlying principles, is that not all of these can be fully developed in the formal curriculum. Indeed, if we look at some of these, we see that it's hoped that students will learn to connect with people, to be able to deal with ambiguity, to have confidence in taking measured risks, to commit to personal development through reflection. These are much better supported or developed, or at least strongly developed, in the co-curriculum. And so to support the intellectual and personal development of our students, the student experience must offer opportunities that ensures the out-of-class experience is integrated with the academic mission of Trinity. And so we come to the familiar graphic now of the 7 features. And where I will slightly differ is that while the co-curriculum, for my colleagues, the co-curriculum is presented there as a foundation on the left leading towards the broader Trinity electives and global mobility, I would argue that the co-curriculum exists throughout and oftentimes informs significantly a student's approach to their capstone project by virtue of the experiences outside of Trinity. We have a very strong tradition of student engagement and participation in co-curricular activities. Every year, over 2,000 students engage in volunteering at community, national, and international levels. In addition, over 1,400 students put themselves forward in positions of leadership as club and society officers, as S2S mentors, students' union, and graduate students' union representatives. And this is where opportunities arise for students to develop skills in listening, relationship building, collaborative leadership, and also how to instill and maintain in their activities and their organizations the values that define Trinity, the Trinity community in all of its activities. Freedom of thought, responsibility in action, and the promotion of equality, dignity, and respect. And indeed, many of our alumni associate their personal and professional development with their participation in these activities. But what is also clear is that many of our students, while here in Trinity, have difficulty recognizing the full range of benefits from experiential learning. So, what are the characteristics of the co-curriculum? Well, first of all, it's important to realize that it belongs to the students. The motivation and enthusiasm emanates from the students themselves. The role of Trinity is not to be prescriptive. It is not to articulate a set of targets and learning outcomes to be achieved on graduation. It's really to encourage students to be open to opportunities. First of all, to see the opportunities, and then to have the courage and sometimes the bravery to engage with the challenges that they encounter. And so what we have done is to provide an enabling tool rather than a prescriptive tool. And that enabling feature of TEP is the guided reflections tool. So the purpose of reflection, or the purpose of the tool rather, is to embed the reflective practice into the student life cycle. Is to facilitate and provide guidance on co-curricular reflection. But mostly it's to help students associate activities with higher level transferable attributes, specifically the graduate attributes. It is also facilitated and guided. It's a supportive process, and it's voluntary. It must demonstrate clear benefits to the students, not just in helping guide and support and facilitate their practice of reflection, but also a tangible output. And most importantly, it has to be linked to the stages in the student life cycle. In the early years, when they're involved in participation in co-curricular activities and putting themselves forward for awards, the reflective tool can be key. But then as they develop further in their academic life, many elements of the core curriculum also expect reflection. And finally, when they hit the stage of career planning and career readiness, the tool can be of use. The tool that's been developed at Trinity is an interactive PDF. It's owned by the student. There's no external assessment or validation. Its content is focused on the Trinity graduate attributes and the underlying principles, and the questions slowly bring the student through the 4 levels of reflection, from basic reflection to an advanced level of critical reflection, following largely the model of Gibbs shown there on the right. And I suppose most, or as importantly, at the end, students are prompted to look back on their experience and how they viewed it, both before and after reflection. So they gain the benefit of reflection, but they also understand the true value of reflection in seeing that higher development. So here's just a quick example of one of the graduate attributes, to think independently. And you can see at the beginning, the students are prompted to answer questions about a particular event and a particular experience or an activity, a summer job, a volunteering experience, whatever. And if they have experienced enough in that, related to that attributes, they're prompted to the second level, where they're asked to evaluate and analyze that experience. So what aspects of it went well, what aspects didn't go well, in relation to that attribute, that graduate attribute. And finally, they're encouraged to look at what actions they might take. So if faced with the same situation, what would they do differently? What skills did they find lacking, and how might they address that shortage? Clearly, for students to engage, they must see the benefits. And as I said, it must match what's going on in their life here at Trinity. So at the very basic level, when students are just engaging in co-curricular activity, there is a whole range of Trinity Awards that recognize and indeed expect reflection, and I've listed them here. Now, it's important to recognize that students would not be asked to submit their reflection for assessment. That would be against the principles of the tool. They are, however, the questions in the application are designed to elicit reflection, to ask what about their activities help develop higher level attributes. Secondly, as an aid to career planning and readiness. So clearly the reflective tool can provide a basis of understanding in developing a professional profile for the student. As well as that, it helps students identify where they have developed strong competencies and can project themselves strongly into that. And also where they can, it helps them identify areas where further development would be beneficial. And finally, and thirdly, it's very beneficial in supporting the core curriculum elements that include reflection in their modules. So we have modules, internships, clinical placements, work placements, and in many of these cases, these are incorporated into the curriculum to develop competencies for working in external environments. So many of the learning outcomes associated with the formal curriculum are based on principles associated with the co-curriculum. Things like communication, coping with ambiguity, risk, conflict, organizational conflict, leadership, collaboration. So this TEP feature will give students a structured and guided tool for self-development in a way that enhances their academic life, their career development, and their engagement with society. It puts substance to our aspiration that students continue their journey of personal development so that they can engage their skills and talents to address the challenges of our community, society, and our world. Thank you very much.